This episode of the Disruption Lab is taped in front of a live studio audience. All right, I've been excited about this one because we just had this conversation this morning at Union Station on another topic, which is everybody thinks innovation is about new technology. Everybody thinks innovation is about high growth startups, those types of things. And my argument is innovation happens anywhere and everywhere. And innovation is just how can we apply different ways of thinking to existing topics. And I'm fascinated by the work you're doing. So Courtney, I guess I want to start by saying, from public defender to presiding judge, pioneering alternative dockets, when did you realize that this role could be more than just redesigning, or be about redesigning justice, not just administering?
Well, I think the goal of all of these programs is to actually work, right? To actually rehabilitate people so they don't have to come back into the system, so they thrive in our community. And I know when I was a public defender, I really loved my clients. And I think what I was best at as a public defender was getting good outcomes by showing their individual skill sets. And being like, no, this person should be on probation. They want to go to Job Corps. They want to go to college. I had a go to college packet. And I would get really good plea outcomes, plea offers, because I showcased this person, right? They're not just a person in a system. They're an individual with dreams and skills. And so when I went to the bench, I think some of that was still there. But I think one thing the bench does wrong is we tell people to do things and we don't follow up on whether they actually can do them. We don't listen enough. And so I think that's what I learned from being on the bench. I would be like, well, you want to do this, go to this program. And then I would find out later, well, they can't go to that program. It's not on the bus line. They have to work. They don't have childcare. And so by asking those questions, it helped develop more programs to break down more barriers.
It seems like this system, and I say system generically, knowing that it's made up of individuals, it's made up of humans.
Right.
It seems like the system loses sight of the people on the other side are humans.
Right. Actually, I wouldn't even say it lost sight. I would say it's never had sight.
Okay.
I don't, it feels to me like the legal system, the criminal legal system, believes that through the threat of punishment, they can tell people what they need to do to better themselves, and they will follow that and better themselves out of fear of going to jail. And the population that I work with, that is completely not true.
Yeah. So your court specifically doesn't just adjudicate, it heals.
And it tries.
It tries, but I think that's the goal that you're articulating, and that's the thing I think you're focused on. So what does true public safety look like when it's rooted in support rather than punishment?
So I'll start by saying that I am a municipal court judge. So our maximum range of punishment is 6 months. And the person that served the maximum sentence would be released in 4 months. So really, public safety wise, if I were to believe that jail protected public safety the most, it wouldn't work, right? I couldn't lock up everybody for the maximum. They'd all come out in 4 months, much worse than when they went in, more angry, less resources. So that's just not practical. We can put people on probation for a period of 2 years. So that's really a lot of time to affect change. But I think the biggest obstacle is building enough trust in people who have been in this system many times that we really do want to help, and we really do listen, and we really do have resources that can make meaningful change if they would like them at whatever time they want them, whichever one they want to start with. We try to really, I know it's so interesting because the previous discussion about our school system and the one size fits all, exactly the same in the justice system. And we are, and I hate calling it the justice system, honestly, because it's not just.
Justice.
Yes, it's not just. So we are really trying to hear out the individual, meet them where they're at, give them the tools they need to make baby steps. Their lives are very overwhelming. But we try to create that system of trust so they ask us for help.
It seems like the way it happens in terms of when we think about public safety in the context of the question I just asked you, it seems like we think saving the public from the criminal, saving the person on that side. versus, and we do this in our society in so many different, we do this in healthcare. We treat symptoms instead of root causes. The root cause of that isn't saving us from them, it's saving them from themselves, or like working on that side more to address the issues related to criminality, violence, some of those types of issues. Am I seeing that right?
Right. I think you're absolutely right that we are not proactive enough. In fact, by the time they get to me, we have already failed. And there are some things in play to try to work on that in our city right now. But I think public safety wise, we want to give them the tools that they don't reoffend. So I mostly work with crimes. I do domestic violence, all of our domestic violence dockets, but I also do stealing, assault, property damage, types of crimes that often wouldn't be committed if the person had the resources to thrive, right? And so public safety wise, if we could stop them from committing the crimes, that's the ultimate goal. Jail is not going to get there.
Kyle Hollins and I have this conversation quite a bit. So Kyle's a co-resident here at Keystone.
And I work with Kyle on my diversion docket in the domestic violence court.
We have this conversation on the regular, is the idea of there's a mindset of generational poverty that creates a different set of thinking and a different set of principles and a different set of things than what the rest of us think is like the norms of society, right? And unless you're addressing those issues in a preventative way, in an intervention way, they're going to end up in trouble.
Well, I think part of the problem is also that the people who are addressing the issues don't understand that.
Yeah.
Like the people that come in front of me, I don't make the mistake of assuming I know what their background is, where they've come from. But I do think that when you give people grace, they expose that themselves. Like something they do that might be perceived as disrespectful might just be the best that they know, right? Like you have to give people grace and give them the opportunity to learn rather than as a system think you know everything and shut people down before they have a chance.
So this mindset you have, your court operates differently. So, evening access, walk-in dockets, these community resource fairs, some of those types of things. How does that visibility and accessibility rebuild trust in the justice system? I'm going to keep calling it the justice system.
Yeah, that's fine. Everybody does.
All right.
All of those things are geared to build trust in the people that we serve. Our programs cannot be successful if the participants don't trust that we are trying to help them. And so that's why we're opening our doors. Our walk-in dockets, the sole purpose, if you have a warrant, you come in there to ask the judge to set aside, and there is a promise we will not put you in jail. We have them on the nights and the weekends because we know people work. That resource fair, and we just had Law Day, that was last week. We had judges come in from other municipalities to set aside warrants from those jurisdictions. We had all of our community partners, and municipal court is very good at building community partnerships. They were like in the halls. You didn't have to have a case. You could just come in and check out the resources that we have. And that was to build trust. But I think the best way to build trust is to not put people in jail in the courtroom. And that's why we don't do it in the walk-in docket. That's why if I have to do it on other dockets, I do it at the end, because the majority of people, I just want them to keep coming to court to resolve what they have. And if they're not an immediate risk of public safety, I don't want them to be afraid to come to court. And national research shows the primary reason people don't come to court is they think once they walk in the doors, they're going to get put in jail. Right. And that's what our system has made them think for years, and that's what municipal court is trying to change.
I'm going to show up and I'm not going to go home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it's
tremendous fear. I mean, I can only imagine. Yeah, absolutely. So between the DV compliance docket, drug court, wellness court, you've layered models that serve individuals differently. What made these hybrid approaches work, and where traditional court systems don't, I guess, or haven't?
So the hybrid approaches came about basically because you could tell that our old approaches weren't working. Like for compliance docket, our focus on that docket is accountability. But we were having people who were struggling so much with substance use that to ask them to do anything other than deal with that was ridiculous. But yet that's what we were doing. We were saying, go to these classes, do this, and they couldn't. They just couldn't. And so that's why we created a domestic violence drug court. Let's get them sober, and then let's start working on the other things that we need to do. Wellness court started in January. It's the combination of drug court and mental health court. And the reason we started it is because we had those two separate courts. And we spent so much time trying to figure out where people should be that we lost the person we were trying to serve. Because people who come through the court system are used to being caught up in a system that doesn't serve them. And that's exactly what we were doing. So we combined the courts, we combined all the community partners, we serve people more quickly. Our numbers have doubled. I have a wellness court tomorrow. I think we have 6 referrals every week. People are wanting to be in the program. And I think one of the primary reasons is they're not afraid.
Right.
Like, they know that if they come to court, they're not going to go to jail. Even if people in wellness court come to court high, I try to isolate them, and then we talk about, because sometimes that's part of the process of recovery. And I want them to get to the end of the process, right, where they're thriving and sober. And so I don't lock them up for that, because then they would never come back. And then I wouldn't be able to work with them to get them what they need to thrive.
It just seems like an epidemic. What you say we? You've been saying we a lot. Like, we have changed this and we have established
Because
this.
my whole court, all of the judges, all of our staff, all of the probation department, we feel this way. That's the way we've been able to effectuate this level of change, is because we are all on board that we want to serve our community, and we have to do it differently than other courts, because that's not the reputation that courts have.
Where does that come from? That the freedom to be able to do that, or the autonomy to be able to make those changes. Like, where did that originate from for you, or for the group, the judges that you're working with?
So a lot of it is because we are the lowest level of court, and since the maximum range of punishment is up to 6 months in jail, I think the public is much more receptive to us doing this type of programming.
Okay.
They get that these types of crimes, this level of crime, could be stopped if people had the resources that they need. So that's the number one thing. But I would say probably, I was appointed presiding judge in 2021, and I think that's when this big push came. And we went to a conference at the National Center for State Courts, and they basically told us all of these things. It's evidence-based. Like, we're not being crazy. Like, we're just trying to do what works. And so they showed us the evidence, and then we were like, oh my gosh, we're doing things wrong, right? So that's why we're trying to make these changes.
And so these were the early data points, the early outcomes that you had exposure to be able to understand that this needs to happen differently, and that you could reduce this issue of recidivism and so on. Nationwide, is this a movement nationwide? Is this something that's starting here? How do you see that? You said you saw this at a conference, so I'm just curious if there are other peers that are doing similar things, or how do you see this on the national level?
Well, I think we're the only wellness court, the only court like that in the nation, as far as I know, and I have looked. Yep. Not just from the fact of co-occurring. There may be some other co-occurring courts, and we separate the people in the courts by risk and need rather than by diagnosis. And we don't limit diagnosis. We'll take anybody with any need, any treatment need, they can come in. But we also started doing this elective programming, and I think that's what really makes that court stand out. Because again,
what's that mean, elective programming?
So it's like when you're in college and you've got your required classes, and then you're like, "Ooh, I'm going to take astronomy because I have an elective and I need 3 hours or whatever." So in wellness court, we order certain things that people need for their treatment needs, their mental health. Like, make sure you're going to your appointments, make sure you're doing your substance use treatment. But then we also require elective programming.
Okay.
And it can be pretty much whatever they want. We approve everything. Going to church, one woman cook with her family one night a week. We give gym memberships, the second phase of the program, so many of them are going to the community centers around the city. Many of them are going to the gym, and they love it. One girl is knitting, but it's just 1 hour a week of time for yourself. What do you enjoy? What are your hobbies? Is there something that you have always wanted to try but you haven't? Because we can connect them with the resources to try that. And they might not have even known those resources existed. And we're starting a pilot that I'm super excited about in January with Aimwell Yoga to do cognitive behavioral therapy yoga. And we use cognitive behavioral therapy in the legal system a lot. And this is combined with the practice of yoga. And it's going to have great data collection, which we are awful at as a court system. But it's going to measure stress levels and flexibility at the beginning of the 8-week course, and then in the middle and at the end. And it's going to be free, and our participants are going to get yoga mats. It's on the bus route, so they're going to be able to get there. It's going to be at an actual yoga studio, which a lot of my participants have never been to. So we're really just encouraging the types of hobbies that will sustain your sobriety once you get out of the program. Because sometimes people graduate wellness court and then they miss coming to court. They miss talking about what they're going through and having that connection. And so we're trying to build that connection so that when they graduate, they still have it. And we're also starting an alumni group. So hopefully people can stay connected.
I could see someone saying, hey, these 5 things we're going to accept, but if it's outside of these 5 things, no. But I mean, anything like they bring, like cooking with a family or anything, like, how'd you guys come up with that? Like you just said, whatever we just want them to tell us what will work for them.
Right, because I think us telling them is too intimidating. And nurturing them as individuals and their hobbies and their wants and their beliefs in themselves, I think that population is so hard on themselves, and they don't believe they can really, they start believing they can't do anything, right? Like it's really hard to just get them to engage. So we try to nurture like their individuality.
I want to move to the technology side of this thing, because I think there's some amazing things it sounds like you guys are using from a technology perspective, specifically the use of AI in the court system.
Well, we haven't started, we're trying to.
Okay, sure. But the ideas are there and how you want to do that.
Right.
Those things are
so, and honestly, I learned about this possibility speaking at 1 Million Cups, and Mitch Mabry referred me here.
Sure.
I work in the court system. We don't know anything about the things that you guys all know about. But data is our bread and butter, and we are terrible at collecting it. My probation department is who collects our data. They are not trained to do that.
Right.
And not only are they not trained to do it, it takes away from their skill set. They're so wonderful at working with people. They're amazing. I tell everybody that goes on supervised probation in my court, I'm like, your probation officer is awesome, and they are. I believe it 1,000%. But collecting data, like they spend 4 hours a week doing that. It's not a good use of their time.
Right.
So we're hopefully going to be using AI in the courtroom and in our staffing to collect the notes that people are discussing, and I don't know the terms.
Sure.
But putting it into a usable data form so that we can use it to apply for grants and other financial resources.
What do you hope the use of that data or use of artificial intelligence to and analyze that data, what do you hope that really kind of illuminates for you, and what do you hope that data help, besides just getting grants and maybe access to some of those types of things, which, believe me, I can understand is extremely valuable. What do you hope it shows? What do you hope it helps you understand better, I guess?
I think I want to measure success beyond recidivism. There's so much more to this story than, they graduated wellness court and then they got another charge 6 months later. It's so much more complicated than that. And that's how the court system works. That's how they measure their success, and it's wrong. It's yes, a lot of people don't recidivate, but if they do, there's reasons for it, and that's what I want. Those are the type of data points I want to collect.
So the other piece that I think is interesting is this idea of using marketing. And so court systems, the justice system this is not something that you ever see really, is that they're out marketing approaches like this and so on. So if you could borrow a tactic from some traditional marketing things that you see, maybe it's direct marketing, use of text messages, some of those other types of things, to educate the public on these alternative dockets, what would you do? What would you look at? What would you hope that could be leveraged?
I'm using the old school way. I'm on the I'm on the entrepreneur circuit right now as a judge. So I don't even know that I know all the possibilities of what we could do. We do have a Facebook page. It doesn't have that many followers. So we are starting a nonprofit that I'm hoping will look into sharing some of the speaking opportunities that we've had, or we're also working with the city to make a video. Like they made a short one about wellness court, but other videos, like 3-minute short videos, so people can see what our court's about, and then share them at places in the community where court users go, or donors, to be honest, go once we get this nonprofit up, so that people can just maybe start thinking differently about the court system, or at least about our municipal court system here in Kansas City.
Look, as an outsider, you and I talked about this a little bit before we came up here, is, I come at this from the outside. This, like, I don't understand, I'm trying to understand more. From an outsider's perspective, it seems so rigid and so rules-based and policy-driven that the art of what's possible, the idea that you can do things differently and make these changes, just seems like, no, it's never going to happen. Like, you're never going to be able to move the needle. It feels like the marketing could help you address some of just those perception issues, whether it's donors on the nonprofit side. Now, how's this nonprofit going to run? And from, how do you think about that?
So the original intent of the nonprofit was to collect money for our specialty court participants for things they can't afford.
Okay.
Like back rent, back utilities, a deposit, like that will really go a long way to build trust. Like, we're not only going to help you get a job, we're going to pay your back electric bill so that you can get this new place. So that was their original intent. And they haven't even launched their website yet. They're called Beyond the Bench KC. But I think it's becoming pretty obvious that it's also going to be a better way to maybe pass through some of the grants that we get, rather than go through the city where we have a lot of hoops to get through. I think they will be a more direct route for that. I think also one board member came to speak with me at 1 Million Cups. I think they will be part of our community arm, going out with us, sharing these videos, networking, just trying to spread the word. And right now we don't really, I'm the person who does it. So I think it's going to be a pretty good opportunity to expand and change the notion of what our court is.
System change is hard.
Yes.
It's extremely hard.
But it's so great. Right? Like how you're saying, oh, it's so rigid, but think of all the possibilities. Like every speaking event I do like this, I come back with notes. I give out my card, I get all these emails, I'm like, okay, I gotta change this, I gotta change this. There's so much that we can change and improve.
I mean, just that outreach and just the listening part of that too. And to me, this is how innovation works, right? Like, you're talking to people that are well outside your domain, but you're taking ideas that they use and you're bringing them back into another. That is the definition of innovation. It's not, invention is new things. Innovation happens every day. You just have to listen outside your, oh, that's not what we do, but we could use that and bring it in. That system level change, though, even if you're looking at it from an innovative approach, is hard. What's been the biggest obstacle that you faced in trying to make these changes, and what keeps you kind of pushing this whole thing forward?
Well, I would say in the world of domestic violence, somebody else's, the education talk again, they were talking about how it's been broken since whatever date. That approach to working with people charged or offenders charged with intimate partner violence has not evolved at all since the 80s. So I hate that. So I'm always trying to bring in new stuff, and it is usually met with skepticism. But again, I can't lock all these people charged with domestic violence. We have 95% of the domestic violence cases that occur in Jackson County are filed in my court. So I cannot lock them all up. The city doesn't even have its own jail. I have got to try new things to get to these people. So I would say that community is especially firm in their approach and unwilling at times to try new things. And then also some of my colleagues at the beginning, when I was appointed presiding judge, I'm very energetic. I always like to try different things. And some of them were like, whoa, slow down. But now I think we're all on board and we're all kind of doing what we're good at. Not everybody is the spokesperson, but everybody's doing something to contribute to this effort, whether it's out front or behind the scenes. And it's really making things work better. Is that because they see the change? Yes. And they see the positive responses of our community. People are just like, oh, I didn't know you did that. And it's rewarding as a judge, right? That's why we got into this line of work, to help people, to be a part of our community. We're public servants. And so now it's kind of like, oh, I feel like I'm actually doing that, right? And people are noticing it. Is this a core Courtney thing that pushes you forward? This is how you've always been to keep pushing this forward? Is it the little wins that keep you trying to push this thing forward? Yeah, I am always, I refer to myself as delusionally optimistic.
I feel that.
Like I just always believe that I believe in people, I believe in change, and there's always ways to improve. So yes, I am like this, and people are like, how do you hear those cases? And the small wins are good, but really even the fails are like, no, I know I can do better.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of touched on this in that answer, but like you clearly lead with empathy and execution, this combination of those two things. What personal commitment or principle guides you kind of as you're designing this system to be different?
I put my belief in people first, and I really try to listen to them on any case in my courtroom. Like sometimes they can't, like if they want to talk about the facts of their case, I have to cut them off. But even then I explain, like I'm stopping you for this reason. I try to encourage people to tell me whatever's in their brain, because otherwise I'm going to go down this path where I'm putting them in a direction where they're going to fail. So that's the main thing, I think, is just listening. And it's kind of shocking and sad how many people come into my courtroom and say things like, oh wow, you're the first judge that ever listened to me. Like, it's sad. So I think that's effective.
Why don't more judges listen? I mean, I guess that feels like a rhetorical question, but what's your take on why this isn't something that more judges want to do?
I think it's because the system is rigid and strict, and it's set up like very formal, like you're gonna do what I tell you to do or I'll put you in jail. And so oftentimes when people talk in court, it's perceived by the judge as being disrespectful. But again, the person that's doing that almost all the time is not being, they just don't know. Like they're just trying to share what and if you tell them why, they are almost always, again, like super, like, thank you for telling me that. Duh, they just wanted a reason. They just wanted an explanation. I speak a lot at conferences and I talk about this a lot. I'm not ashamed of how I run my courtroom. And a lot of people, I think it does resonate with them, like, oh, because we've all made mistakes as judges. I remember when I was just appointed, and I was running this DV docket, and the whole community was like, you better be tough on DV, and the judge before me put everyone in jail. So even though it wasn't my nature, I was really like trying to be firm. And so this guy came in late to court. He already issued a warrant. I had my bailiff take him into custody because he was late and he had warrants, which is what the previous judge did. And my bailiff came out and he was like, Judge, that guy said he walked here from Grandview. I didn't even ask. I didn't say a word. I was like, go with my bailiff. And I was like, oh my gosh, Marvin, he's an amazing bailiff. I'm like, Marvin, do you think he really did that? And he's like, yes, because I had to take his shoes off and that man has been walking. And I'm like, okay, bring it back out. And I let him out right away. It was like, it was the worst feeling ever. That someone put that much effort into getting to court and I put them in jail. Thank God I didn't. So really, it's important. It's important that we change.
Yeah, it sounds like it. 5 years from now, like what's success look like for you? What's for the change that you're trying to make? What aspirationally do you hope this does for the community and for the individuals that are in your court?
I want our court to have a positive image in our community. I want especially the specialty court, the work that we're doing in the courts, and it's not just wellness court, it's not just DV. We have a care court, we have a community court that doesn't even meet at court for people who are afraid, again, to come to court. I want those programs to be recognized by the public, and I want our community to be proud that we are innovating these programs to serve the people of Kansas City. And then I also want to work with technology to get the data to back that up. Yeah.
Are people taking notice of what you're doing?
Yes.
Like, are you, I think when we were introduced, there was mention of maybe some university students or some research fellows that were maybe taking a look at what you were doing. Tell me a little bit about that.
A team of graduate students from Temple University is studying wellness court, I think all of next year. And they're going to be an important piece of the data component too. Thank goodness somebody can come in who knows how to do that stuff. But they're studying it because of that elective component, the co-occurring component, all the resources at the same table and staffing. We're the only people doing it. So that's a wonderful opportunity. And they're starting at the same time as our CBT yoga pilot, so it's like perfect.
Yeah.
And just, I've been asked to speak at a lot of conferences. I've been even here, like being asked to speak here. That wouldn't have happened, right? So people are, I think, starting to take notice. We've been on the news. Our resource fair they did a great story on it. So I think we're trying to get into non-traditional channels, right? Like instead of speaking at court conferences, get out in the community, and because that's who we serve. That's really what our court's about.
So I know they asked this question in 1 million cups, but I want to ask this a little bit differently. So instead of what can the community do for you, instead of thinking about it as a local community, if someone's watching this podcast, if someone's taking this interview in on a national level, where do you still need help? Where could you use resources if somebody wants to also use their skills to affect change? Where could you use some support in terms of specialty skills, knowledge, expertise, those types of things?
Well, I am always open to community partnerships. So if anybody watching this is like, oh my gosh, I have a program that would be perfect for the domestic violence dockets or a wellness court or a care court, send me an email and I will meet with you. I promise. I think also feel free to come to see these dockets. It's much easier to understand if you sit through a staffing and a docket, because what's happening, the people we're serving is really what it's about, and that's where you get to see that happening. You can see it at a graduation. Graduations are beautiful and make me tear up, but really the work gets done before that, and so I encourage people to come down to municipal court at any time. Send me an email or don't, just come in and just see kind of what's happening there. Yeah, I think as far as suggestions for improvement, I'm all ears. And I don't know what I don't know. So don't be afraid to talk to me or anyone on our bench about suggestions or partnerships. Because like you said, like, oh, I never thought of that. We are doing it this way. We could do it better. That's what's been happening at a rapid pace in the last 6 months.
Just this brief conversation we've had has changed some of the perceptions I have about judges in general. So I think just
be careful, because some of them aren't like me.
No, I'm sure. Well, I've been in court before, so I know that's true. But all right, no constraints. You could design a court from scratch, a courtroom, and as part of the system from scratch. What would be kind of some of those key features? Design, aesthetic, experience, technology. How would you think about that? What would you do?
I absolutely love this question. I loved all of your questions, but this one, I was like, oh, I love thinking about this. And I feel bad because I don't know enough about technology, but there is a piece of that in my answer. So first, I think the formality of the courtroom is important because it is such a high emotion environment and it's intense. And so the formality of the judge going out on the bench in a robe, even though maybe that's not really my personal style, it does help calm people in the courtroom.
Sure. So
a lot of the things that I would like to enhance would go to keeping it even more calm than it is. So first of all, it should be more comfortable. It's like church pews, totally uncomfortable. It should have a daycare. I really want our court to have a daycare. And I want to work with Jackson County Court as well because they're right by each other so that people wouldn't have to sweat that. Like, oh, do I get a warrant or take my kids to court? Like, it's too much. So I would like it to have a daycare. I would like there to be office spaces around so that especially court-appointed attorneys could meet with their clients in private. Because court-appointed attorneys are so overworked that they meet their clients in court, and it doesn't give the process the respect it deserves. It's like by nature kind of not taking it seriously when you're just talking to your client in the hall or rushing through. Like having an office space where they can have time to talk in private and really ask questions. I love our legal aid attorneys, they're amazing, but it's just not a good setup for that. I would like to have, and this is a techie part, I don't know if anybody can do this, but I would love to have a kiosk system. We have one now where you can like put in your name and see what courtroom you're supposed to be in, but I would like it to tell the person what's going to happen. Because a lot of the people in court are so upset because it takes so long and they don't know why they're there, and they think my case should be done by now. They don't understand like what's happening in the process. They just understand like I took a day off work and I'm sitting here waiting. So like if we could have a kiosk that said you're here for arraignment. That's where the judge tells you what you're charged with and what the range of punishment is, and after that they're going to go over your rights to an attorney. Your wait time is approximately 20 minutes. It would be amazing. The people would, it's like me answering their questions, but not having to see them first, like calling them before I even call them up to the bench. And then for some things, like you're here today to hire an attorney. Did you hire an attorney? If you didn't, press this button to get a 30-day continuance. Why do I have to have them wait to see me for that purpose? Some of these things do not have to require that wait. So I think that would be incredible. And to just have my docket be arraignments and trials and guilty pleas, like that's really, everything else we're just waiting to get to those points.
Sure.
So to move it more quickly would be awesome. And then finally, and this is actually in the works, so if you know any city council people, please contact them because this is very important to me. We are working to build a community resource center close to the courthouse where all of the community partners could have office space. So rather than me telling somebody, oh, you're gonna have to go to ad hoc, it's at this location, impossible, right? They could have an office next to the courthouse where they could go and get the services that they need. They could get their benefits, Medicaid, they could make their therapy appointments or even meet with a therapist. We could have a yoga room, a conference room, right next to the courthouse so that I wouldn't have to send people so far to work on things like getting their ID, getting their social security card, have those partners in a building where I could say, just go right next door, Sam's over there, he's gonna help you today. And then I would like that facility to be accessible by non-justice involved individuals. Any person in the city could come where all the resources are, one-stop shop, it's accessible to everybody, you don't have to have a court case to use it, and this is the being proactive
That's
approach.
the trust piece
Yes.
too, right? Like
Yes.
I see the court differently if I have the ability to do that.
Right. Like I've already been down there, they didn't put me in jail. But also, let's get them the resources before they have a case, right? Like why do you need to have a case to get this help? And these resources are in our community, but they are spread out and they have wait lists. So it's going to be a community resource center. I'm on the RFP committee to select a contractor. If you know a city council person, we need some funding to fund something beautiful and comfortable that can serve the people and fill the gaps. I saw that. Fill the gaps in our community that exists between these community partners.
That's amazing. It seems so logical.
Right.
Applying logic to this. So yeah.
I
Who would have
know.
thought, right?
Well, it's just too many, always too many steps to get to where you want to go, right? Too many people involved, too many. It's like, dude, this is so obvious to me. Let's just do it.
Yeah. That's, I mean, you're talking my language. I mean, it's the whole idea of proximity matters, the collisions, the intentionality of co-locating resources to reduce friction and so those types of things. It's the same principle that we look at when we're talking about entrepreneurship and innovation and those other types of things.
See, look at how we have in common.
Those are absolutely. I think we lose sight of how much we all do have in common.
Right.
And so I think, one, thank you for continuing to treat the human side of this thing and to look at these people as what they are, as people that, these are problems that can be solved. And so thank you for that work. Thank you for, I think most of us know what we're doing now isn't working. So something's got to change. And so thanks for being a leader and, making those changes. And if there's anything that the community can do, lean into this community, we'd be happy to help. I'm sure there's probably an entrepreneur that's going to think of a courtroom concierge kiosk that can be designed to do exactly those things you're talking about. Like, why don't we have concierges in courtrooms? We just have them in hotels.
Well, and it's just, I'm like every court in the nation needs this, right? Like we don't think like that. We're just doing our little jobs. So I think it's these type of ideas, like there's a place for them. And my email, I don't know if it's my first name last name @kcmo.org.
Okay.
That's the best way to reach me. I'm on the bench pretty much from 9 to 3. but I can get emails. So anybody with ideas, please email me. I love conversations like this because they bring ideas to me that I would never think of on my own.
Well, thanks for being willing to push those ideas forward too, and actually executing those. Thanks for all the work you're doing. Thanks for being here too. I appreciate it.
Thanks for the platform. I appreciate it.
You bet. You bet. Good luck.
Thanks.
Thanks.